And didn't I mention this last time? I was driving and listening to Led Zeppelin and I got gas. Did I not tell you this? Okay. So I was, Led Zeppelin did not do it. So no, I was driving home. I put in some Led Zeppelin. I was just driving. And I thought, I want to get some gas. So I stopped and I was pumping the gas. And I just turned and I looked up to the sky. And the sun came out from behind the clouds. And I was like, and there it was. I mean, I can't describe it, but that was the experience. And I had to laugh afterwards because I thought, here I was all week sitting and meditating. And I just go and pump gas, and it dawned. But it was the real deal. And I thought, well, that's pretty neat. And so, you see, the thing with meditation is it's getting you, it's not making anything happen. It's clearing away the junk that's keeping it from happening, you see, because it's in there. It's just wiping away the stuff that's on top so that it can happen. And it can happen at any time. There were a few other times when the same thing happened. I wasn't meditating. I had been meditating, did my normal 2-hour meditation in the morning, and you'd think it would happen then. But it usually happens when you're not trying to make it happen. That's the point. Okay? When you're trying to make it happen, it doesn't usually happen. So when you spend those 2 hours trying to make it happen, you're putting the intention, you're really putting it out there in the universe. And then when you relax and you forget about it, and the universe says, all right, you're not blocking the way anymore, so there you go. That is why, again, you don't have expectations in your practice, because your expectations will keep it from happening. So when you practice, don't do it because you want to experience samadhi. It'll happen. Do it because you know that it's helping clear away the junk. All right, you're not forcing anything, you're just letting it do its job. Okay? It's just like if you're sick and you take some, if you take some Ayurvedic herbs, and you think, I'm going to take this one thing and I'm going to drink it and then I should be better immediately. But usually it's after a couple days of doing it that then you start to feel the effects and then you gradually get better. It's the same with meditation, yoga, and spiritual practice. You do it and you keep doing it, and eventually then when you're not paying attention you start noticing the results. Okay? And then while you're sitting, you start to get a sense of how to just relax and let it happen. That's the point. If you're trying to make it happen, it won't work. So you need to do your best to remain as relaxed and alert as possible during meditation. Okay, that's the key. And when you're listening to the Om vibration like we're going to do, or you're trying to see the inner light in the spiritual eye, it will only typically happen if you are completely relaxed, yet alert and awake and paying attention. A lot of people, when they get relaxed, they just fall asleep. And meditation is teaching you to be in that relaxed state. That's why we sit up and we usually don't lay down when we're doing this. Be in that relaxed state while keeping your attention just focused on one point and then seeing what happens.
So do you feel like there was any kind of a major shift in your life?
No, I don't think there was. Because the point is the experience of the oneness state is just that, an experience of the oneness state. If you want to experience a shift in your life, typically that takes you shifting the way you do and think about things. Meditation-wise, I wasn't so attached to what was going on during meditation. I was able to simply just be there and be present while it's happening and realizing that, well, okay, when it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
I was going to add something to that because I was the first time I had participated in an arati ceremony where we did a Sanskrit chant for 45 minutes, and I had like an experience of total bliss during it. And the thing that I would say the same thing, that my life didn't necessarily shift, but
Right.
what shifted was that I absolutely believed that was possible.
But that brings up an interesting point. A lot of people in the Kriya Yoga tradition, there's initiation involved, which means you meet with the teacher, he teaches you what's called advanced Kriya pranayama techniques, and then you go through a procedure, you put a fruit and flower down, and you make your donation, and you get a blessing. And they think that once you've had that experience, that your life is just going to magically change. It's like, yes, I've been blessed, I've been initiated into this lineage, so my life is going to change. The life changes when you make the most of that experience. If you think that someone else is going to be able to bless you and give you something so that everything will just magically work out from there on out, that's a false expectation. It's when you know, okay, this is a new start for me, and you start living from that new perspective, that's when the changes occur. everything that you do is the result of your own actions. So no one can wake you up. No one can well, of course, sometimes they can smack you on the chest and you have an interesting experience. But that only happens when you are ready for it. That only happens when you are internally receptive to it. And the same thing, by practicing meditation, you are becoming receptive to the flows of grace which are always there. Even if you're not feeling it right now, it's still there. When you can believe it, accept it, have full faith in it, then you experience it.
What's the difference between that and enlightenment? Is there a difference between experiencing samadhi?
Enlightenment just means knowing. So if you're spiritually enlightened, you know what it means to be spiritually enlightened. You see, you know yourself. All right. So being it is simply just being it. It's living the life. It's being a normal person and living whatever's coming up for you naturally. But to be enlightened means that you know who you are beyond name and form, and it doesn't fluctuate. Okay. So there are different stages as well. Someone can have a good mental concept, and that's why you read books like this. That's why you read the Yoga Sutras or the Bhagavad Gita or Vasishtha Yoga. The reason you read this stuff is so that when it happens, you know what's happening. You see, the reason you read this stuff is so that you are getting the mental framework of how to experience this within the relative realms. Okay, and then once it's in your mind, you can start living in that way, thinking in that way, holding that intention until it becomes natural for you. And then there's no more need to read books like this. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, scriptures is scripture for an enlightened person is like water in a flooded place. So once you're awake, once you know this stuff, you don't need it anymore. And this brings me back. That's what I was looking for. All right, let's see, where was it? It was that God is timeless, transcending time. God is the guru of ancient teachers. This is Sutra 26. So he transcends time. He's a teacher of the ancient teachers. You can learn this stuff on your own because the ancient teachers had to learn it from somewhere, right? I mean, there had to be someone who manifested, someone or some inspiration that occurred, and people said, oh, I get it, okay, so I'm going to start living this way, I'm going to start practicing this, so I can write it down and teach it to other people. The other thing I was reading in the Bhagavad Gita, it was talking about the only way that a person can have this transmitted to them, Sri Yukteswar said this, is by meeting and studying with an actual person who's experienced what's being talked about. You have to meet them. And a teacher, what they do is, for example, I was thinking about this on the way over here. If you wanted to learn how to do calculus, you could probably figure it out on your own, right? Probably. If you really wanted to, you could figure it out on your own. Because someone had to figure it out. I mean, it had to come from somewhere. Same kind of thing. However, if you went and you studied with someone who knew calculus, how much quicker would that be? A lot quicker. That's why you meet with people, that's why you come together in groups like this, is so that you get the information, you get also the undercurrent of energy that's supporting it, that helps clarify it within you. And then it makes sense, it's within your awareness. When it happens, when you experience it in and of yourself, you're like, oh, that's what this person's talking about in this book, or that's what I heard in this class or this lecture. And then you start living it yourself. So teachers are invaluable within the process. And the key is to learn from someone who has experienced at least some of it themselves. If they have not experienced it themselves, they're just sharing knowledge. And if they're just sharing knowledge, words, verbal stuff, there's not any potency behind it. But if you find someone that you resonate with, a tradition that you resonate with, an author that you resonate with, and you listen and you try to figure out what they mean, that's part of what your job is. That is throwing the intention out to the universe that you want to know what this is about.